Welcome. I'm going to teach you the express way to plan a problem-based learning unit or project-based learning unit. I attended a workshop at High Tech High School. They're based in California. They had a workshop in my area, which really helped to deepen my skills for problem-based learning. I also pull resources from the internet, from places like PBL Works, and I've been doing PBL in my classroom many different times over the past 24 years that I've been teaching physics. And so this is going to be a very fast way for you to dive in and try PBL design without wasting any time. We're going to get you moving immediately, and you'll have a unit planned and calendared in no time. So here we go. The first thing I would like for you and your team to do is to go ahead and ask yourself, how do you know significant learning is happening in your classroom? What does it look like? There's a list here. Students have an aha moment. Kids are learning by doing. People are joyous when they learn something new. Sometimes there's frustration in physics, oftentimes. I find that students are definitely learning when they are frustrated about things. So make your own list or add to this one, and if nothing else, just take a minute to read through this and think, how do you know there was significant learning? I want you to have that be kind of a frame as we move forward. The best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of ideas. That's a quote from Linus Pauling, with the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. And what we're going to do is exactly that. You and your team are going to brainstorm. You're going to take about 4 minutes to come up with 50 ideas about your topic. And this is the ideation part of problem-based learning. So if you want to go more in depth about what that means, you can look that up. But basically, you're brainstorming. What I did in the real world when I was running this as a workshop is I had people go ahead and grab a stack of Post-it notes. Now, if you're doing this remotely or digitally, you could open up a Google Sheet, you could open up Google Docs, you could each make a list on your own sheet of paper. However you want to organize that, I'm going to just say Post-it note, but whatever works for you and your team, just do that. What I want you to do is think about, what can students make, build, or do? That is how you're going to frame your thinking. Time, money, and resources are not a restriction. Don't restrict your brain right away. You're going to just let it all out and just have it flow free. So I think the best way to do this is to make a group of 3 if you can. If you're on something like a Zoom, maybe use some breakout rooms. If you're actually in the real world, separate off so that your talking and excitement doesn't overwhelm each group. You kind of want to be far away from each other. You can assign one writer and just have people spitting out ideas, or the way that I did it is I had each person in the group grab their own stack and do their own writing, but they were saying their ideas out loud as they went. Quantity is key. No judgment, no discussion. One idea per Post-it note or one cell, or in the Google Sheet, or however you're going to go ahead and organize that. And have somebody set a timer for 4 minutes and then ready, set, go. See what you come up with. Good luck and have fun. Once you're done with that, you're going to divide all of those ideas into 2 categories. You're going to have to decide, is it easy to implement or is it more challenging? And I'm going to suggest to you that if there's ones that are kind of on the fence, you're going to just have to decide. And do it sort of quickly. I think it's easier that way, instead of mulling over each one and saying, oh, it's easy, but this, or oh, it's more challenging. Oh, no, it would be easy. Don't get too deep into these conversations right now. Just sort of snap judgment. Go ahead and divide all of your beautiful ideas into 2 categories. Don't take too long for this. Again, I would have somebody set a timer so that you're not wasting time. Once you have things divided, what I want you to think about is, how might students create meaningful work for an authentic community that they truly care about? So I want you to think about audience. And we know this as educators, that the power of audience is huge. If students are just doing something for themselves, it's different than if they're doing it for you, the teacher, and it's different even more, even in a larger capacity, if they're doing it for somebody else. outside of the classroom. If you're in choir 101, right, and you know that you're going to have to perform to an entire theater full of people, that is a different level of buy-in than if you just had to sing to yourself in your bedroom. So I think that adding audience is huge. It is a very big part of the problem-based learning process, and it really will shift your thinking. So take a few of the easy to implement ideas and think about who could be an authentic audience. And then go ahead and write the audience on the Post-it note. Or again, however you're organizing this, note it in the Google Sheets cell or on the list that you're making. Make a note. So go ahead and go through, and you can go ahead as a team in your groups and talk about this. Take a few of the easy ones. Who could be an audience? Is it other students? Is it staff? Is it somebody in the community? Is it somebody you can find online? Who is it? Or it doesn't even have to be a person in real life. It could just be generally if they were writing something to like a group. What if they were, sending it to a group of astronomers or something like that? I always think it's better if it's an actual person, but that's not always possible. Go ahead, find your audience. Once you do that, you're going to go ahead and categorize all of your ideas. So pick your favorite, add an audience, and then also add a category. Or if you want, you can have the categories and then divide up your Post-it notes under each category. That's up to you for how you and your team want to organize this. But you want to think about all these ideas as what would be good for a project launch. Was there a field trip idea or a cool movie clip or something exciting happening in the community that would get kids bought in? So what ideas would be a good project launch? What are good essential questions? What about ideation? What about drafting and revision and critique? You want to make sure for your problem-based learning that you have ample time put into your calendar for students to draft, to revise, and for there to be some sort of critique, either peer critique or from you, or even better, from an outside person. And then allow your students time to reflect, and then revise, and then get critiqued and reflect. That is where the true gold will happen in your unit. Think about what of the ideas that you wrote down might be a good assessment. In physics, if they can successfully drop a parachute and have it go very slow, that may show me that they understand the power of equal forces, of the weight of the parachuter and the upward flow of air. It's actually not a bad assessment. So assessment doesn't just have to mean test. And then could there be some sort of an exhibition? That could be an actual physical exhibition where people are walking around and looking at your work. It could be something that's online that people could access, whatever that means to you, and what community connections might there be. So categorize, ready, set, go. Once you have things categorized, you want to go ahead and you can start to calendar. So you want to make sure that you're laying these things out in a cycle. So the question you want to think about is, what would be the deliverable steps that students could do to build up to their final project? So you want to think about, what could happen in the next week or two to build the skill or to build a piece or to have part of this project understood, that they could turn something in. And then you're going to create a calendar to start to scaffold the project benchmarks or little mini projects along the way. When we did this in the real world, I had teams do this in about 15 minutes or so that you didn't get too caught up in it, but you want to just sort of lay it out. When I did this with the team that I worked with most recently, we kind of separated out by week. We didn't go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That was a little too detailed. We sort of spread it out just by week. This would be good toward the beginning. This would be good toward the middle. And so you want to go ahead and do that and have some or all of these each week. You want to keep sort of relaunching your project, getting students excited about the topic at hand. So if you have more than one project launch idea, that's amazing. Spread it out and you keep relaunching along the way. So you want to kind of think about cycles, think about trying to hit some or all of these every week or two. So for example, for my junior skills team, we did Mission to Mars. And so physics, English, history, and math all combined together. We had the same set of students. Thank you to our administration for letting that happen. And it was amazing because we didn't really have to worry about bell schedules so much because students wouldn't be missing a class that was outside of the four of ours. They scheduled it so we were kind of all in a row. It was amazing. So when we were thinking about our 2 to 3 week mini sections with deliverables, things that kids could turn in all of the time, we kind of just split it into 3. Pre-launch, preparing to go to space, launch, getting to space and living in space, and then colonization, living on Mars, law and order, food, that sort of thing. All of this was amazing for physics. And in history, it was great because we ended up going to the Chicago History Museum, which is basically about colonizing the city of Chicago. So we were able to really blend all of our courses together and have a true problem-based learning experience for students. And in the end, their major deliverable at the end was they had to submit a movie about colonizing Mars, and they had to take they were pro colonizing Mars or they were against colonizing Mars, and they had to put in all the pieces as to why. So that was it was an exciting unit for us. So again, what are some deliverables? I'm sure you can think of about a million. This was a list that I got from the High Tech High people: site visits, empathy interviews, blueprint creations. So some things could be new. You could submit to an external publication. Maybe that's something you've never done before. I also use things that really weren't that new. I had some labs that fit very well in my physics classroom, and so on some weeks that was the deliverable. We'd be learning about gravity. We would do a lab about gravity, and their deliverable for that week was to submit that lab. So every piece of this does not have to be completely reinvented. Of course, you can go back to the things that are excellent in your curriculum already. So here are some ideas here to peruse. And then to wrap it up, if you are going to be working with other other courses in your building, which would be amazing, you want to make sure you have classroom norms, or really even across teams. If you're all teaching the same class, you want to make sure that your PBL is kind of feeling the same to kids and that you have some norms. Maybe divide up the workload. When are you going to meet again? What thoughts, ideas, concerns do you have? So this was the express way to get moving on a problem-based learning unit, and I hope that it was helpful.